On Tuesday, Luke Harper posted that he has requested his release from WWE. He posted a message that read, "As of this evening, I have requested a release from WWE. The past 6 years have been a simply amazing journey around the world and back with lifelong friends and family. I am proud of it all. I'm proud to say I shared the ring with my coworkers. This decision, as difficult as it was, feels right for myself and WWE. My goal in the future is to continue to grow as a performer and a person and continue to make my family proud. Thank you." From the top to the bottom of the WWE, thank you to the fans for your undying support. Thank you, everyone. No word yet on whether WWE will actually grant his request. According to the Observer, the belief is that his contract does not expire until November. So if they say no, it could be a very awkward few months for Luke Harper. Now, he took the high road in that message. Very respectful, very humble, very cordial. And wisely, he went public with it, much the same way Ty Dillinger did. And Ty Dillinger got his release. Now, Luke Harper is probably a bigger, well, not even probably. In the WWE pecking order, he would have been considered a slightly bigger star, slightly bigger name than Ty Dillinger, but let's be honest, not by much. Not where Harper's been slotted now for a while. So Dillinger got his release, and maybe he would have gotten it anyway. But he went public. Whether WWE knew he was doing that or not, I don't know. But he didn't just go to WWE in private and say, "I want my release." He did that and then went to social media and said, "Hey guys, guess what I just did? I went to WWE and asked for my release, and I want all of you to know that I did that too." It's smart, and it makes them look bad if it appears they're holding this guy hostage. Yes, he signed his contract. And if they want him to live up to that contract, then he's obligated to live up to the rest of that contract. But perception is everything. Perception is a very important thing to this company. Not when it comes to Saudi Arabia necessarily. They'll take the money and run, but that's a different story. But perception is very important. Luke Harper is very well liked. Like I said, very humble, very respectful in that message, but very public. He didn't have to do that. He could have waited to get an answer from them and then said, "Hey, I got my release. I'm now free to take bookings." Or if they said no, he could have just continued to keep his mouth shut and we would have been none the wiser. There's a reason he did it this way, and I think it's smart. He's got nothing to lose. If he's 1 foot out the door anyway and ends up pissing a few people off by doing what he did, who cares? What are they going to do, job him out? Can't be any worse than what they've had him doing, which is nothing. It's like he doesn't even exist. You know, when Rowan went down with an injury last year, he decided to go ahead. He had some nagging injuries of his own taken care of. I know he had surgery on his wrist. Now, I know he's had a couple of injuries, big injuries during his run. I saw some people, "Oh, he's injury prone. It was the injuries." I don't get the sense that this guy was injury prone. I can think of a knee injury that he had and the wrist surgery. So it's not really a case of him being hurt all the time. I don't know where these reports are that people are reading that Luke Harper was always hurt. It was 2 injuries. 2 injuries now equals injury prone? Even if there's a third lesser injury I'm not privy to, the guy does not have any kind of reputation as being injury prone. He was not constantly down injured. I don't know where that's coming from. Let's put that narrative to bed right now. You know, because now Rowan has been out a few times with injuries, with arm injuries. He had a torn bicep, he had a rotator cuff tear. But for Harper, I don't think that's been a big issue. He made his return to the ring last month. He wrestled Donovan Dijak at WrestleMania Access. They had that One Worlds Collide special. He had a Michinoku driver to Dijak from the apron to the floor. And Dijak is a big dude. He's like 6'6". So is Harper. He's a big dude also. But that was nuts. Then he was in the Andre Battle Royal at WrestleMania, but otherwise he hasn't done much. I thought if they wanted to keep him and Rowan together, they could have had him come back at the end of the Elimination Chamber match, get into the chamber somehow to help Bryan beat Kofi King. He beat Kofi anyway. He could have given Bryan the assist. He could have made his return, and Rowan was, let's say, unable to get inside, or he had already been disposed of outside by the other New Day members. Nobody would have been expecting Luke Harper maybe comes up from underneath the ring or something and gives Bryan the assist in the chamber match. And then Bryan ends up having his own sustainable little Wyatt family, and they can wrestle 6-mans on TV, which we all know WWE loves their 6-mans. Or there's another option. They could have given this guy a complete overhaul. Now, the man can talk. Maybe let him take his character in a totally different direction that allows him to speak more, show more personality, just something totally different that might help get him more TV time. But they did nothing. Maybe because they were going into WrestleMania and the timing just wasn't right. He obviously wants to have the freedom to explore his options elsewhere, and I hope he gets it. Even with all the options that are out there now, it can't be easy to walk away from a sure thing. He had job security with WWE, probably was making good money. I mean, I don't know what he's making, and it's none of my business, but I'm sure he's able to support his family quite well. And it can't be easy to just say, you know what, I'm going to walk away from this. I'm going to walk away from a sure thing. I'm going to walk away from working for the biggest company in the world. People still bring up the Randy Orton-Bray Wyatt match at WrestleMania 33 for the championship, and it baffles me that Harper was not involved in that match, especially since he was probably the most interesting part of that entire storyline. His distrust and dislike of Randy Orton, being part of the Wyatt family, being suspect of his intentions. He had a match against AJ Styles on TV to determine the number one contender for the championship at WrestleMania, and then he lost, and then at WrestleMania he was relegated to the Andre Battle Royal. That seems to be a recurring role for him. Orton and Bray went on to have an atrocious match for the championship, one of the worst I've ever seen at WrestleMania, ever. Not the worst, necessarily, but one of the worst. A match that certainly could have benefited from Luke Harper. More like Luke Harper and less corny CGI. Remember, this was the WrestleMania where Orton was upset or cracked a joke at a Comic-Con or something because it looked like he was riding on this giant sperm down to the ring. It was supposed to be a snake, but it looked like from above, as he was walking down the ramp, this CGI that was underneath his feet, it looked like he was riding a giant sperm down to the ring. Not even snakes and sperm could save that match. That could be, by the way, that could be the title for a Jake Roberts book if he ever decides to write one. Snakes and sperm, especially after that one story that he loves to tell about the rib he played on Rick Rude, which I wish I had never heard in the first place, nor am I going to repeat it here. I think it was actually Kevin Castle on Twitter. I'll give him a shout out. He said something that I agree with, which is that if Harper does leave, if he does get his release and he leaves the company, it might make more sense for him to land in a place like Ring of Honor first, where he might have a better shot of being higher up on the card, and his name might mean more than it would if he just walked right on into AEW. I know it's cute and all for people to overuse that Cody gif, but when you do that for everyone, you end up with a situation like Vincent and Bryan Adams in the NWO. AEW also needs to be careful not to be branded as the land of the WWE castaways, like TNA was for a while. I could see him going somewhere else. I don't know if he'd even be interested maybe in having a run in Japan or something, but build up his name more as a singles guy. And eventually he could go to AEW, or he could go back to WWE, like Drew McIntyre did, and maybe be higher up in the pecking order than he would have been otherwise. It's his decision to make. But I don't think that would be a bad idea. I'm not president of the Luke Harper fan club or anything like that, but I respect the guy's work. And he was part of some of those fantastic six-man tags with the Wyatt family against The Shield in 2014. A lot of you mentioned the ladder match, which had slipped my mind, but the TLC pay-per-view that same year, he had a ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship against Dolph Ziggler. That was a war that those two guys had. They beat the hell out of each other with that ladder. I think they might have both been busted open. I remember that there was a scary spot in that match. Harper got his arm caught, got his arm tangled up in the ladder. But he never did much beyond that as a single star. In fact, I think Harper's run as IC champion, which I completely forgot about, lasted I think all of a month. That was his big run as a singles champion in the company. Now maybe he'll get his chance, but only if WWE decides to let him go and give it to him. If not, it's going to be a long 6 or 7 months for him.